Welcome to Mama Sassa's Life Unfiltered, where I always say it's raw, it's real, it's unapologetic, and it's uncut. Well, hasn't these last few weeks just been absolutely insane in my life? It literally feels like it's been like 3-4 weeks already, I really feel like that, but it's actually only been 2 weeks since Mr. and I become ex-husband and wife. But I want to delve into some other part of that today, and not really on my story, but just, let's say why we shouldn't ignore our intuition, better known as women's intuition. So today, that's exactly what I want to talk about. Our intuition, our gut feelings, and why so many of us ignore the things we already deep down know. When people hear the phrase women's intuition, they often think it's some kind of magical ability to predict the future. Personally, I don't think that's what intuition is at all. I think intuition is often our mind recognizing patterns, behaviors, and situations before we've consciously processed them. It's that feeling that something isn't right. You just know. You're looking at everything. It's that little voice that just keeps coming back and back and back and telling you to frigging listen to it, really. It's the thing we often try to explain away because we don't want to seem dramatic, emotional, or wrong. Because let's get it, let's face it. We often do get told, oh, you're just being too dramatic. You're being too emotional. You're overthinking this, that. Stop being stupid. We get told so much by, the person that we're having this intuition with that it's all our fault. And I think if we're being honest, most of us can look back at different moments in our lives and realize we knew more than we gave ourselves credit for. Oh, did we we really need to give ourselves more credit, girls. Seriously. If I look back over my life in the last, even 7 to 10 years, I know that there is a lot of intuition that I wish I had have listened to. Because, who knows what life could have had in store for me. But you can't look at that way either. You have to look and go, well, this was my path. This is the path that I meant to choose. And without this path, would I have my little one and all the rest? But what does intuition feel like? I think one of the biggest misconceptions about intuition is that it's loud. For me, intuition isn't loud. Anxiety is loud. Fear is loud. Overthinking is loud. But intuition is often quiet. It's the feeling that doesn't go away. It's the thought that keeps returning. It's the thing that keeps tapping you on the shoulder and saying, pay attention. Listen, woman, would you literally pay attention? Have you ever had a situation where you couldn't explain why something felt off, but you couldn't shake that feeling? I think most people have. And why do we ignore it? This is the part that fascinates me. Because most of the time, it isn't that we don't know. It's that we don't want to know. Sometimes we don't want to be wrong. Sometimes we don't want to hurt somebody. Sometimes we don't want to cause conflict. And sometimes we don't want to admit that a situation isn't what we hoped it would be. So we talk ourselves out of what we're feeling. We just explain it away. We minimize it as best we can and move on with life. We convince ourselves we're imagining things. And sometimes we spend more energy arguing with ourselves than we do listening to ourselves. So, how do you know if it's intuition or if it's anxiety? I know a lot of people struggle with this one. How do you know whether it's intuition or anxiety? For me, anxiety creates hundreds of different scenarios. It asks, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if I'm wrong? What if I'm right? Anxiety is noisy. Intuition is usually much simpler, I would say. It tends to repeat the same message. It doesn't always tell you what the answer is. And generally, it never tells you what the answer is. But it often tells you that something needs your attention. So, what happens when we stop trusting ourselves? When we stop trusting ourselves and we start looking everywhere else for answers, we ask somebody what they think, we seek reassurance, we second guess our own decisions, we often lose confidence in our ability to judge situations, and eventually we become disconnected from our own voice. The problem is that nobody knows your life better than you do. Oh, isn't that the truth? Nobody knows your life better than you do. Let's say that one more time for the people in the background. Nobody knows your life better than you do. Nobody lives inside your head. Nobody sees every detail that you do. Can we just redo that again? Nobody knows your life better than you do. Nobody lives inside your head, and nobody sees every detail that you see. So, what happens when we start trusting ourselves? Oh, golly. Oh, that's when chaos happens, I reckon. But let's delve deeper into what happens when you start trusting yourself. Trusting yourself doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. We all have to make mistakes in life, guys. It doesn't mean you'll always be right. It doesn't mean you'll stop abandoning yourself. You stop needing permission to feel the way you feel. You become more confident setting boundaries. You become more confident saying no. You become less dependent on somebody else's approval. And you realize that even if you make a mistake, you can handle it. And that is the biggest thing from that, I reckon. Once you start to actually listen to yourself, you realize mistakes are always going to happen. Everyone makes mistakes every single day pretty much. But you learn how to handle them. So, how do we rebuild trust in ourselves? I think it starts small. It starts by paying attention, listening to your feelings, noticing patterns, being honest with yourself, keeping promises to yourself. The more you listen to yourself, the stronger that trust becomes. Because if you're not paying that attention to yourself, you really can't trust yourself. You can't become stronger, and then you start to question on whether or not how you handle making mistakes, and then you start to question that other people know you better than you know yourself. And yeah, it literally just all becomes this massive, big thing. Like, you really do start to, you become weaker if you don't become stronger in this scenario. If you don't listen to your intuition and you question it and everything, you will literally fall into all of those things that we have just spoken about, on how we know what we're thinking. We're not silly, we're not stupid, we don't misconstrue things. Well, when I say we don't, yes, of course, sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't always get it right. But that's the difference between a thought, in a way, and women's intuition. Because women's intuition is extremely strong, it's extremely powerful, and we just need to learn to start to listen to ourselves a little bit more, I reckon. I don't think intuition is about being perfect, in case you get me wrong. I don't think it's about predicting the future. We definitely cannot predict the future, but we can definitely see flaws within the future, or we can see, not within the future, but we can see flaws of past things and whether or not things keep reoccurring and all of that. I think it's about having a relationship with yourself that's built on trust, and that is the biggest thing. You need to trust yourself, because if you don't trust yourself and back yourself, you can't trust and back anyone else. It's exactly like the line, you've got to love yourself before you can love anyone else, and that is 100% true. And if there is one thing I'd leave with you today, it's this: you don't have to have all the answers, but you do deserve to listen to yourself. Sometimes the first step isn't making a decision. Sometimes the first step is simply being honest about what you already know.